Well, I'm going to grab something here. And because there's a recording up here, I'll try to stay close to this and be appropriate. I know how to be appropriate.
More than I.
So I want you to do something for me. You may have already noticed this, and it may be that it's still out there, but one of you, in one of the bulletins, there's a sticky note and it has a little smiley face on it. Has anybody gotten that one? You got that one, okay. You win.
I did.
So, it's like they say in the drug culture, first one's free. Now, some of you may be wondering, where did they get this guy from? No, I'm not going to answer that one. But you may be wondering what the sticky notes are doing in the program. And so I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you right up front. We're talking about change the world. So the first question that comes to mind with changing the world is, what can I do as one person? I'm, just an average guy. I'm an average woman. I'm an average child. What can I do? So here's what you can do. First, if you have any doubts, if you have any fears about yourself, if you have any concerns or worries that you are not good enough, you are not strong enough, you are not powerful enough, you are not clever enough, you are not in the right place, whatever it is, you can use Post-it notes and you can write down those concerns on the Post-it note. This was advice that was given to me many years ago. I had gotten divorced. I was worried about how my relationship would be with my kids. I was growing up in a Catholic parish, and it was not cool to be divorced, especially when you were the director of religious education for that parish. It was even less cool to be gay, but that didn't happen. Didn't have to deal with that one with that particular group. In case you haven't noticed, I'm not a Roman Catholic priest. I'm an American Orthodox Catholic priest. They let me in under the wire, so. But anyway, I had all these worries. What am I going to do? My family comes from many different places, but there's some indications that some of those roots are Jewish. And so it was a moment to go, oy vey, what am I going to do? So I started writing those things down because a friend suggested it. Write those worries down on a Post-it note. Write them all down. Get them out of your brain. Move them into reality, into physical form, and then stick them in a sandwich bag. And seal the bag. And that's your God bag. That's God's responsibility, not yours anymore. There is going to be a separation. I know God and I are one, but that is God's job, not my job as God. So once it's on here, once it's in the bag, the next time I worry about it, I can go, oh, no, God's already got that one handled. I don't have to worry about that. Because our anxiety often is a little thumbtack saying, don't forget about this, don't forget about this, don't forget about this. And when we can speak to our anxiety and say, you know what, I'm not forgetting about it, I put it in the bag, it's cool. It's amazing how it just goes away. Now, it may be, though, that you want to spend some quality time feeling sorry for yourself. I, of course, would never do that, but I hear other people have. And that's why it's on a sticky note. You can pour it out on the floor, take off your clothes, roll around naked in them, have them all stick to you for as long as you want. And then when you're done with feeling sorry for yourself, you can take them off again, put them back in the bag, and go on with your life. Now, the stuff that I put in my God bag when I started was highly personal. And about 5 years later, somebody came to me that was in a similar situation to what I had gone through. And I went and I got my God bag and I dumped it out on the kitchen table and explained how it worked and said, I might be able to save you some writer's cramp, see if there's some of these you can use. Because the things that we think are in the way often turn out to be not in the way if we move through them in love and trust. So we have to be able to love ourselves enough to take care of ourselves. That's the first change we have to make. is taking care of ourselves. Now, the second change we make is to take care of the people who are immediately around us. You may have noticed you have a Post-it note in your bulletin. I should have gotten stock in these, because I find them to be great tools. If you live with someone or you're visiting someone, and there's something about them that you can say is really pretty neat, write it down and stick it on their bathroom mirror. So that when they go in the morning, they remember each day that they are loved, they are cherished, and they are capable of doing wonderful things. And at the end of the day, consider the things you did right that day. Write them down, stick them on your own bathroom mirror. So that you go in the next day and you realize you are here for a purpose. And you are here on purpose. You're not here accidentally. You're here by divine appointment. So you begin to change. You begin to change the way you understand yourself. You begin to change the way other people understand themselves. Now, maybe that involves two people. What difference does it make if it only involves two people? How is the world changing? Well, the world has already changed. Because the ingredients in that world have changed. It's not the same world once one new person begins to love. It's a whole different world. It has changed. Now, there was a fellow in Florida, long before, I lived in Florida for 31 years. And I enjoyed living in Florida. I didn't mind the humidity. Until I became a runner. And I was back in Florida visiting my kids, and I went out for a run after running here in California. And it was, like 140% humidity, typical Florida day. And I thought, wow, I'm really glad I live in California. I don't think I want to do this. But there's a lot about Florida that I really liked, and there's a place in Florida called Bach Tower Gardens. Edward Bach was a Dutch child when he came to America. He was 6 years old. He didn't know the culture. He didn't know the language. His family had immigrated. So you can imagine he felt a little bit out of place. But he became a successful editor and publisher. He published, I'm pretty sure he published the Ladies' Home Journal, was one of his magazines. He amassed quite a fortune. And he lived in this area of Central Florida that had what's known as Iron Mountain. It's, I think, 239 feet high. It's the highest spot in Florida within 60 miles of the coast. So, it was like the Sierra. And it was all just scrub pines and, sand and stuff. So he decided, because he had been so successful in America, that he wanted to give something back. And he was quite a philanthropist. One of the things he did is he got Frederick Law Olmsted, the fellow that did Central Park, brought him to Florida, and they transformed this sandy hill into a tropical garden. And they put a beautiful carillon in the middle of it. It's one of the most peaceful places you can imagine in your life. You just walk on the grounds and you relax. There's 126 different species of birds that have called it their home. So he was doing this because his grandmother said to him, make the world better than you found it. Make it more beautiful. So that's what one man did, coming from a circumstance where he didn't speak the language, he didn't know the culture, and he was in a strange new world. And by the end of his life, he had changed the world. But there's another person, another two little people, whom you know well, Helen Keller and Anne Sullivan. How could Helen Keller change the world? She couldn't speak, she couldn't hear, she couldn't see. How's somebody like that going to change a world? And yet, she did change the world. She not only changed it, she rocked it. She was present at the inauguration of every president from Coolidge to Lyndon B. Johnson. When I used to go to the Thomas Edison Museum, Thomas Edison had a laboratory in Fort Myers, Florida, and I used to love going there. I always felt like I was going back into my grandfather's garage or something. So I don't know if I was like Thomas Edison's nephew in a previous life or something, But it was a beautiful place, and one day I was looking at the letters, and there was a letter to Thomas Edison from Helen Keller saying, "Love, not words, fall on my ears when I am with you." Can you imagine being that to someone so that they say, "I don't hear your words, I only hear your love"? That'll change a world. Now it happens that Helen Keller was also friends with Edward Bach. And I'm sure he understood very clearly what it was like to be her in his own way. He was 6 years old in a place where he didn't understand the language of the culture. He was an outsider. So these two form a friendship. When Edward Bach died, Helen Keller wrote a letter to his wife. And I want to read to you a little bit of that letter. It's not very long. "Dear Mrs. Bach, I am so inexpressibly saddened I can scarcely write this word of tenderest sympathy. Mr. Bach's death is a loss to the world and a loss to me. I feel poignantly my helplessness before your sorrow. I yearn to speak the word that would comfort you. But how futile are words in the ears of those who mourn. There will be many tributes to the publicist, the great editor, the philanthropist, the peace advocate, the lover of birds and all things beautiful. For Mr. Bach had the gift of drawing all hearts to him. Yes, I am sure there is such a thing as heart magnetism. It is this strong impulse, this eagerness to share, to help, to call forth the best in men and women that endeared Mr. Bach to all who knew him." Now, I mentioned the little Oy Jewish thing. So, we have Tikkun Olam, which is a Jewish phrase that means repair the world. That this is our job, to repair the world. And the people I mentioned set out to do that. They definitely made some repairs where they saw there were some cracks that needed to be filled in, where they saw there were some connections that needed to be made. And you and I set out to repair the world, and we can follow what she says about Mr. Bach. We can have heart magnetism. We can draw people to us with our love. Because once they get within that sphere, just as you were saying, that love is always continuing. Once they're in that sphere, they can't help but get wet with it. And maybe that day they may go, but there's going to be a second time, and there's going to be a third time. And love doesn't take no for an answer. But we have to be willing to be the one making that statement. We have to be willing to be the one, when the person ahead of us cuts us off in traffic, to love them. So I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to give you one little clue about the workshop this afternoon. And that is that you can turn your car into a superhero car. And I'm going to tell you right now how to do it. It's really simple. My car is out in the parking lot, and which is better than leaving it out in the middle of the street. And across the inside of the windshield in dry erase marker, it says, "Om Mani Padme Hum." Now that's because my husband uses the car when he's a chaplain in Sacramento, we live in Vacaville, so he uses this car to get back and forth. That Om Mani Padme Hum is often translated as "I behold a jewel in the center of the lotus." Sometimes it's, applied to say like, "I behold the Christ in you. I see the presence of God in you." As Gail was talking about it during the children's lesson, I see my mom, but I see my God. I see my friend, but I see my God. So that Om Mani Padme Hum is up there. So that if somebody does cut me off, I need a reminder, but it's right there. Oh, I see the beauty in you. And so I'm going to see that beauty in you. And in the car that I usually drive, my messages vary. But I have one that often just says, "Be a force for good." Because that helps me when I get into the car to remember it, when I get out of the car, wherever I'm going to remember it, whatever happens in traffic, I remember it. So I go through the drive-through, I try to get an egg and cheese biscuit with no meat on it. I get a sausage biscuit with no egg and cheese. I'm down the road before I discover it. Be a force for good. Don't sit there and go, I'm gonna take that back. I'm just gonna leave it in the car and I'm going back at noon. I'm gonna take it back and say, see what you did? You know, like, get over it. Just be a force for good. Bless that person. Have compassion for that person. One of my favorite stories is an Anthony DeMello story, and it's a Buddhist parable. And so many of you probably know this story. I think it's, popular in unity circles. About the man who had gone to the grocery store and gotten 2 big bags of groceries. And these are he was having paper bags. So he's walking out with his groceries, and as he steps out onto the sidewalk, this guy just comes along and just clobbers him. Just walks right into him. Knocks him down, breaks his eggs, breaks the glass things that he has, makes a big mess. And the guy says, "You!" And he looks and he notices the guy is blind. He's got his red tip cane, And in that instant, he moves from anger to compassion. He does it because he knows that story. We don't do it because we make up stories. We make up all these grand, we like to close things. We see an arc and we know it's an arc because it's part of a circle. No, it's just an arc. Just our brain likes to close it and make it a circle. We want to know the story. And if we don't know the story, we make it up. So how about if we quit doing that and we start loving and we start having compassion and we start realizing in that moment that person was blind and they didn't do this to me on purpose. They did not get up this morning and say, if anybody comes through here in a Kia Rio, I'm going to make sure they get sausage. It was not payback for pita day or anything. It was just like, they made a mistake. And some of our mistakes are big. But we can change the world by loving each other through our mistakes. And by seeing each other as pure and perfect and holy and innocent. Because you're not a mistake. Once we do that, we've begun to change this world in amazing ways. So, my beloved friends, let's just breathe into that. Let's just allow ourselves to be that change. And I have a little closing story that comes from my granddaughter. She was the first granddaughter of my 6 grandchildren to come along. And she is the most amazing, perfect human being that ever was born, of course, along with the other ones. But when I was growing up, my dad had his first heart attack at 35. He was dead by 53. So my brother and I kept waiting for the time bomb. We kept hearing that ticking in the distance. And he and I never talked about it until we were both well past those milestones. But apparently he did the same thing I did. He thought, well, I'm 36 and I didn't have one. Okay. Well, I'm 53 and I'm still alive. Okay. So we grew up because my grandfather had had a heart attack and, we grew up believing that that was our destiny. And in my family, it was if you're a woman, you get cancer. If you're a man, you have cardiovascular disease. Those are your only options. So my brother began cross-country skiing and taking a 5-mile speed walk every day if he couldn't ski. And I began running marathons. And my kids run. So along comes my granddaughter, who's the fastest runner in her school. And one day, her coach said to her, Chesed, a fine Jewish name that means grace, and that if I pronounce it properly, it would be Chesed. But that... He said, Chesed, how come you're so fast? And she said, because I come from a running family. My mother runs, my aunt runs, my uncle runs, my grandfather runs, and my great uncle runs. Making one difference, one small difference. Choosing to go out and start running again when I found a coach that could help me run, because I had all the standard excuses. My knees. Yeah. Don't get me started. Anybody can run. It's just a matter of form. Anybody can walk, anybody can move, they can do some kind of exercise. So when I started running again, she had no idea there was all this backstory. That was my story. She created a whole new family. A family that's all about health and fitness. So you, by any simple act, can flip a legacy 180 degrees. Don't be afraid to do it. God bless you. I love you.